Nurture and Support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nurture and Support, a recommendation podcast sharing all the awesome since 2013. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter. And with me, as always, advancing the Amazon Prime directive is Mel.
Hey everybody, I'm Mel at Karmic9 on Twitter, and this is episode 50! If you're still here, congratulations. We love you.
Yeah, if we get any veterans of the 50, that's super awesome. We really do appreciate it. That would be very cool. It's like almost like 500,000, isn't it? 50.
Yeah.
I'll have to work on the math, but it's a lot. We're coming up. So yeah, the big 50. So, and no, and that's not the average number of years that my recommendations date back to, just so you know. And tonight, I only go about half of that for tonight, I think. So we'll see. I think we're just going to get right at it. And I'm going to be making a recommendation. It's a music recommendation. And I would think almost for episode 50, I should be doing an Alice Cooper recommendation. But I'm not. I'll save it for another day. More to come on Alice. There's always something. But this is, if you have not heard this album, Mel, I think you'll like it.
Okay.
It's interesting on a couple levels, and I hope our listeners would like it as well. So my recommendation is an album that's called Songs for Drella, and it's by Lou Reed and John Cale. Now, Lou Reed and John Cale were original members of a group called the Velvet Underground, and they were discovered basically by Andy Warhol, who began to do some of the art for their early albums. So Andy Warhol, pretty interesting guy, interesting circle of people around him. A performer named Nico was also kind of in Andy's orbit, and so he associated Nico with the Velvet Underground for an album or two, and they had the Velvet Underground with Nico, and they did those types of things. But he was very formative with the Velvet Underground. Around 1968, the Velvet Underground broke up, and John Cale vowed to never, ever work with Lou Reed ever again, because it was not an amicable breakup. But they did finally get together, and it was somewhat under unfortunate circumstances. It was with the passing of Andy Warhol, and so they decided to get together and create a tribute album to him, and that's what Songs for Drella is.
Okay.
Drella comes from one of the many people that hung around with Andy during the day that combined Dracula and Cinderella. And so the nickname they had for him was Drella from there. He didn't much care for it, but that was his nickname. So Lou Reed's noted for there'll be a lot of personal confession and exposition in his music and a lot of the stuff he does, and that comes through here. John Cale, they're very different musicians. Ultimately, Lou's kind of this gritty New York guitar, smoky voice rock guy, and Cale is this very clever lyricist, piano, and just this kind of very soothing voice. So very, very different styles, and these two styles kind of intertwine throughout Songs for Drella. And it's a pretty fascinating thing because you will actually get a very accurate kind of history lesson on Andy Warhol by listening through the whole album. It runs in basic chronological order. Andy was born in Pittsburgh to a blue-collar family. He was very pale, very pudgy, and very gay. And none of these things went over well in blue-collar. But he was an artist and he was a creator. And so it was just, you see this process of, as he started out, some of the challenges he had to eventually kind of find his place to express himself. And that kind of comes out in the Small Town, kind of the song that kind of kicks it off to begin with, that you really get a nice biography of Andy at the start and the artistic interests he had. The album itself is kind of comes from, a lot of it is from kind of Andy Warhol's first person point of view. So about a third of the songs are like that. About a third of the songs is like a third party narrator, kind of covering kind of events, and then a third is just kind of compositional pieces about the art, the situation, and all those types of things. So it's a pretty interesting thing. but you get a lot of reality in it. It's a fascinating thing. Like, and you'll see this if you. There's a number of different Andy Warhol biographies out there, and you'll see when you watch some of these things actually occur in the biographies that he worked with Lou Reed early on with the Velvet Underground, and Lou would come in and say, "I wrote 3 songs last night." And Eddie said, well, you should have written 5. You're lazy. You need to work. Because it's all about work and work ethic and keep creating and keep pumping this stuff out and create. And he created this environment called the Factory, which was an open door artistic venue where people could basically come in, hang out. They'd be making their experimental films. There's a couple songs on this album kind of about that aesthetic and what he was trying to accomplish. And so basically people could kind of come and go as they pleased, and there was this kind of wild cast of characters in the midst of New York City. So they kind of cover a lot of that, the growth of the Velvets, Andy kind of pushing Lou, and then one of the people who had originally given Andy Warhol a script, she wanted him to make it a movie. He didn't, and then there's some question of could he find the script and did it get returned, and she was thinking he was stealing it. So she made her way into the factory one day and shot Andy. Valerie Solanas was the individual's name, and there's a song called I Believe that kind of covers that whole series of events sung by Lou Reed, and you can just hear the contempt in his voice for her in this. And it's sung more from Lou's point of view, but it's a pretty powerful thing. This ended up, he lived, but this kind of precipitated a kind of steady decline to eventually Andy Warhol passing on. But this event caused a problem there. But then you get these other little snippets while Lou's very passionate about what happened to Andy and all those types of things. He also is honest in the songs and points out that Lou never went and visited Andy when Andy was in the hospital, and that bothered Andy. When Lou Reed got married, Lou didn't invite Andy to the wedding, and that works in there, and they kind of cover it from there. And it's just the way the lyrics are delivered. It's just really, I mean, it's like you're really hearing how exasperated Andy Warhol was that Lou Reed got married and I didn't get invited to the wedding. And it was just, they actually pull it off. It's kind of cheesy, whatever, but they really pull it off and go through. So it's really 2 tremendous musicians telling a very interesting story. And I didn't know a lot of this stuff about Andy Warhol until I listened to Drella, and then I went through and did some other research and watched documentaries and all those types of things, but a very kind of fascinating thing. It is, it's not a straightforward rock album by any stretch of the imagination. There's some times where you get into some pretty good guitar work, but there's a lot of the piano stuff of Cale, a lot of just good just general music. So it's classified as art rock in the category. And art rock can sometimes be a little scary, but for me this one kind of pulls it off. It is musically great, musically enjoyable, lyrically incredibly strong, 2 very good performers, 2 guys I'm glad to see get back together, work out some differences, because this then precipitated at least a couple mini Velvet Underground reunions as well after the compilation of this album. Released in 1990. So there's the Kelly making sure he goes back a little bit in the calendar, but that's when this came out. But Songs for Drella, highly recommend getting it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's good music, interesting story, and good artists. So that'd be my recommendation for this week.
Cool. I know some of the Velvet Underground, but I didn't know anything about that album. So I'm going to have to look and see if it's up on Spotify.
I'm going to guess yes, but we will know before our blog post goes up, because we'll make sure that.
If it is up on Spotify, I will give y'all a link to it, because I like Spotify. As if any of you actually look at the blog post, will know that I'm always giving Spotify links, because hey, it's free, and every time someone listens to a track on Spotify, the artist gets a teeny little bit of money. So there's that. I'm petrified here. Kelly's given this deep, meaningful recommendation, and I have a game app for y'all.
Where you shoot Andy Warhol.
No, you're not shooting Andy Warhol. Mine's kind of an oldie but goodie. I thought I would tell y'all about probably one of the oldest apps that is on my phone. I'm pretty sure that I had this on my iPod Touch before I moved up to the iPhone. You might have guessed that this is going to be an iOS only app. It is called Cubes 3D Revolution, and it's made by a company called Simiotica. However, their website no longer works. I don't believe this app is being supported anymore at all. But the good news here, folks, is that it's free. And it actually, unlike pretty much every other free app you might find on the App Store, there aren't any ads. So it is just a fun, very, very slick kind of sci-fi element type of game. But it's one of those match 3 games. Like Bejeweled and all of that all of you are familiar with. Only this one puts a tiny little spin on it, in that, like the name implies, what you're doing is matching colors of cubes. You're given a game screen that has 46 colored cubes with these pretty little kind of gem sigils on them. And the neat part is this took advantage of the new screens when the iPhones jumped up kind of in technology there. And instead of it just being a static picture that you're matching 3 gems across with Cubes 3D, you've actually got a cube. So you can rotate that cube to any side to match the cubes beside it. So you still need to get 3 or more to match, but you've got all of these different possible color combinations on each cube. I don't know how many levels there are. I know I've gotten up to a huge number to me, but of course it gets much, much harder the higher up you go. There are a couple of different game styles where you can play against the clock, or you can just, kind of play endlessly. There is a hint system if you get stuck, but which is easier to do than in a lot of those because you have so many different possibilities. It takes advantage of the iPod Touch and the iPod screen in that instead of rotating the cube to see what colors there are on it, you actually tilt your phone so that you can see the different colors. So it's neat, and it's got a nice little, I don't know how to really describe the soundtrack. It's not techno. It's kind of an electronic sound, but it's very smooth and very kind of sci-fi, and it's really a very, very beautiful app. I love to play it, and I've had it. I think it came out, I want to say, in like 2009, and I've had it since the beginning, and it has stayed on every iPhone that I've had. I will say, even though I looked it up in iTunes to see what it said the other day about it being iPad compatible, I had it on my iPad at one time, and I there's the music.
So we're gonna edit this. Sorry.
I like the music. I love the music there.
I was just downloading it to try it out. It's like,
Yes.
sorry. Oops.
It doesn't scale well on the iPad. It's kind of like any of those that are really made for the iPhone, and you put it on the iPad and it blows the screen up really big. It's not that it's not playable. The iPad's just kind of big to be manipulating the screen back and forth to see around the cubes. If you have an iPad mini, it'll probably be a much better experience. I just play it on my phone, so I just love this app, and I always check on it periodically to see if they have updated it or come out with a new version for the iPad, and things like that. So I was really disappointed to see that their website doesn't even work anymore. So I very much doubt we'll ever get another version of the game. But despite the reviews that are on iTunes, I looked quickly, and there were a bunch of people, I think from like last year, saying the game was crashing all of the time. I've never had that problem with it, so I'm not sure what their problem was. I've never had a problem with this game running on any device I've had it on, and I've had it on 3 different phones and 3 different versions of the iPhone and the iPod Touch. So I've never had a problem. This is a really just enjoyable time waster to me. If you like match 3 games, This one is more challenging than most. It has all of the same things you're used to in those, in that you match 3 or more, and you get either time bonuses, or it'll wipe out an entire row or column of cubes. And as you progress through the levels, some of the cubes will freeze, or they'll turn to stone, or different little things like that to mess up your progress. And it gets harder and harder with more of those showing up every time. So if you're a fan of match 3 games, which, I like a lot of them, this is by far my favorite one. I suggest you take a look at Cube's 3D Revolution if you have an iOS device. I've enjoyed it for years, and I really wish the company could update it and make some more. But that's okay. It's perfectly playable as it is, and it's free, and there's no annoying ads. So you can enjoy it as much as you want to and listen to the totally cool soundtrack, because I really enjoy it. So Cube's 3D Revolution on iOS.
Very cool. Are there power-ups in this at all, or is it just kind of they change the technique of play sometimes, so you have to?
You don't get like clickable power-ups. Some of the games give you, if you get so many, you get a power-up that you can then apply whenever you want to. No, this one, the only power-ups that you're getting are basically done right then when you get a good match.
Gotcha.
When you've done a particularly good job, though, it tells you, good job, perfect. Tells you things like that, very Mortal Kombat. So, so I like it, and it's really a beautiful interface, much better than a whole lot of apps that I've downloaded that you have to pay, $1 or $2 for on the iTunes store. So it's free, it can't hurt anything. Give it a try if you like those kind of things. I will say that it does, if you get on a kick where you're playing it for a really long time, it can wear your battery down because it's pretty graphic intensive. But I think the newer versions of the phone, I haven't noticed quite the battery drain that I did back on, maybe the 3 that I first started getting it on. So anyway, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I suggest all of you enjoy it too.
That's right. You know what I wish would do new levels?
What?
Tiny Death Star. I'm totally capped out on Tiny Death Star on my iOS device. So I can just make money now. So that's it. So I had to restart it on my Android phone. So I'm kind of I'll get there shortly too.
I actually almost started playing it again the other day. And I was like, I don't know. It's coming up Christmas, where I never got any of my little special box last Christmas that I was supposed to get. So I don't know.
The embittered moment when Mel was denied her decorator Imperial droids.
I never got those stupid decorator bots, man. Everybody else did, but it hated me.
Yeah, I got to flood them. I was like throwing them away. I was like, I don't need any more. Go away. Go down this level. So, no, that sounds really cool. So I'm going to obviously give it a try. And that sounds like a fun one, though. But yeah, I'll have to see, because I'm going to put it on the iPad, and that will be. I mean, a lot of those games are really cool with the tilt. Where the iPad Mini might be about the biggest you want to go to really.
Yeah. You don't have to do the tilt. That's what it was designed for. And I want to say, I thought there used to be a stat screen that told you like how many times you tried to make a bad move. But I can't seem to find it lately. So I don't know if that went away with an update before the company stopped doing anything. But I haven't seen that lately. So that was where tilting got really important, because you don't want to touch that cube if you're going to get a bad stat for it and you don't get a move. So if you don't care about that, you actually can touch the cube and rotate it with your finger a little bit, which might be easier on the iPad to see what the other sides are. So
okay, we'll play around. We'll find out. Sounds fun though.
Yeah, I like
Very
it.
cool. So you can turn maybe the sound down a little bit and have songs for Dorella playing in the background and play your little cube game. And you got bright colors and John Cale and Lou Reed. It's all good. Alrighty, well, after a lengthy 1-week hiatus, Mel and I are going to return back to providing social media recommendations. We just took a breather off of last episode, but we'll usually keep it as part of the show unless we decide not to, like we did last week. So perfect. But so my recommendation, I know you're gonna like. support, I think. No doubt about that. Because it's you, Mel. I'm recommending you this week on my social media recommendation on Twitter. So I'm recommending at Karmic9 on Twitter. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I'm recommending. No, this is good. It's good. So we are on show 50. This has really enjoyed doing this with Mel. Hopefully, for those of you who have listened for a while, you'll have figured out that there's a lot of common interests, and then there are a lot of ways that Mel and I are pretty different. And so I think that's part of the fun part of this show is that our interests take us into different places, and we can kind of bring, hey, you may want to look at this, or you may want to look at that. And so that's kind of the whole point of nurture and support and doing all that. So we operate a little bit differently, and we definitely operate a little differently on Twitter. I'm kind of the Walmart of Twitter. I'm a volume. I'm just gonna barrage and put tons and tons and tons of stuff out there, and occasionally something's kind of good, but I figure volume is good. So there's this wall of tweets that kind of comes from me, and particularly on nights when there's Z Nation, Walking Dead, or a bad sci-fi movie. Whereas Mel, she's more of a sniper. She kind of lurks out there, and then she kind of throws a quick little shot or quick little jab, and they are some of the funniest tweets I read each night during the shows, and just I know it's 140 characters, but in the 140 characters, she does a great job in really kind of capturing whatever emotion, opinion, or thought she wants to share. She just very regularly nails it. So if you're not, and shame on you, if you're listening to Nurture and Support and are not already following Mel at Karmic9, but if you aren't, follow her, particularly if you watch something like Z Nation, Walking Dead, or bad sci-fi movies, because she'll make you laugh. And I had to actually stop. I had to stay off of Twitter during Breaking Bad because Mel, again, she's not this wall of tweets, but she'd be firing a couple out there, and it would distract me watching that versus taking in the greatest television show of all time. So I kind of had to sit there. So my recommendation this week is our very own Mel, Karmic9 on Twitter.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being set up for something, though.
That's wise. That's good thinking.
A stressful person.
I mean,
now I'm having to wonder what bad news he's going to give me once we stop recording. He's just telling all of y'all to be nice to me because he has some really bad news. But thank you so much. That's sweet. I haven't been on Twitter a whole lot lately, y'all. And if spelling bothers you, I'm having a real problem with this whole new iOS version's autocorrect, putting in the wrong words. So cut me some slack if you're one of those grammar Nazis who likes to correct people on Twitter, because I've been having some problems with the wrong words getting put in with lovely autocorrect lately. So anyway, but yeah, we had fun this last week with what was that movie? Mutant World.
Mutant World, yes. And it was fun, and the cast was out there. A couple members of the cast were out there, very interactive, which is so cool. That's always fun.
And the director was on there, I believe, talking to you too, wasn't he?
I think so.
The director, Matt Pena, something like that. Yeah. Kelly talks to everybody on Twitter, y'all. He gets all of the famous people to talk to him.
All I know is that I'm going to lose it now. Lipscomb. What's his first name now? The gentleman that played Francois.
Yes, Francois. You were talking up a storm with him.
He
was the best character, though.
Yeah, he was. I missed the start. But as I came in, basically he was on the screen, and I'm like, okay, so who's this? And then he tweeted something out and threw the hashtag in Francois problems, kind of like first world problems or those types of things. And I thought that was like the greatest hashtag ever. And so I dedicated the rest of the show to using that as much as possible. And
yes.
And he liked that concept and was supportive, so it was very cool.
Yeah, well, it was just a little trippy to have a guy named Francois in a mutant, not the Old West, but we're pretending it is, kind of town in the futuristic zombie apocalypse. And his name was Francois, and he was not French. But anyway, it was a trippy little movie. So if y'all haven't seen Mutant World, you might check out SyFy. It's probably coming back on. So my social media recommendation this week is going to be another one of my YouTube recommendations. By now, y'all all know I like steampunk, and I don't know where I was when this Kickstarter was going on, but there's a YouTube account. They also have a Twitter account and a website, all with the same handle. It's The World of Steam. So theworldofsteam.com, at World of Steam on Twitter, and YouTube is The World of Steam. They are making neat little steampunk little web videos. They've only got one out right now called The Clockwork Heart, but it's really good. I liked it, and they're working on releasing more. And one thing that's also, of course, a huge draw is Bear McCreary is involved. Y'all might know him as the wonderful composer who everybody heard of doing Battlestar Galactica, but he's now moved on to pretty much everything, and he's awesome. So he's also involved in this project. So I suggest you go follow them on YouTube so you find out all of the stuff before everybody else does. And right now they're just posting up a bunch of background stuff for the next video, but their Twitter account has a little bit more information, but I like watching the videos because I like steampunk. So The World of Steam on YouTube, I think y'all will enjoy it.
And speaking of punks, I think we'll hand it over to Matt right now and let him give the information if you would like to contact us, how you can contact Nurture and Support. And we do need to hear from you, unless you're sending us emails that we haven't checked our email account. It's usually better to hit us in Twitter. But,
yes.
But however you would like to, comments on the website, iTunes reviews, tweets, or emails that we will someday get back into that inbox, please do drop us a note. It's been a little while since we've had a viewer recommendation. That'd be kind of cool to do another one of those. And, be warned, once we know you listen to Nurture and Support, you never know. You might be on one week. So we'd like to have some folks come on and join us. It's always fun. So, but with that, a lot more punk than steam. We'll hand it over to Mr. Matt, who will give us the information on how you can stay in touch.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
You can contact us on our website, nurtureandsupport.net, or email us at nurtandsupp@gmail.com. That's NURTANDSUPP@gmail.com. Or tweet us at nurtandsupp on Twitter.
Nurturing and supporting.